out the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California won the big game. 5 seconds left in the game. You believe in miracles? Yes!
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Vane, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
You're in the doghouse with Rick Watson on Big Dog Sports Talk, presented by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Join us in the Family Fencing Studios and chime in on the McClellan Chiropractic chat line. He's keeping cool with help from Little River Heating and Air, but this show is straight fire. And now, the big dog, Rick Watson.
Rick Watson's got the mic, he's the big dog king. Cover sports so sharp, it's a New River thing. Virginia Tech fire, rapid pride too. Every stat, every play, he's bringing it to you. He's got that voice, deep as a valley, breaking it down, no dilly, no dally. Big dog sports talk, feel the bark.
No dillying and no dallying. Good morning. How are you? Everybody's doing well wherever you might be. Sorry, I had to have one last look at Susanna. Manic Monday, Reaction Monday to a very wild, final full weekend of college football. How's everybody doing? Coming up, Jermaine Ferrell scheduled to join us from WFXR. The coach, Phil Elmassian. We should have listened to him. Not the Tech UVA game. And then the coach, Todd Grantham. Man, I'll tell you what, it was fun all weekend. Todd was updating me on all the stuff that was going on with everything. Like just absolutely everything with the coaching hires and everything that was happening. So I would get about a 2 or 3 minute head start on who was going to be hired where for sure. It was great. Great. Good stuff. Good morning, Stephen. Paul, how are you? Prometheus, how are you? Keep that fire burning. Hey, Pat, what's up, brother? Good to see you. What's up, CH4931? Hey, glad you're checking in for the first time. Yeah, you can always go back and watch later. Just go to the channel. And when you go to the channel, you just find it. It'll be logged about 5 minutes after the show. So there you go. And please subscribe, like, and share. Remember, it's free. Tell your friends. Yeah, wild finish last night in the Broncos Commanders game. From the blue waters of the Chesapeake Bay to the hills of Tennessee and now the sandy beaches of Palm Coast, BDST is live and online. Top of the morning to you. Good morning, Swish. Hello, Harat. Matthew. Thank you, Tom. I know. It's true. What's up, Jason? How's everybody at Family Fencing? By the way, locally, congratulations, high school football, Grayson County, semifinals, Glenver stays undefeated, Jefferson Forest beat up on GW Danville. Good stuff all the way around. So we got a lot to cover today, and, Phil Elmassian told us on Friday, on our Black Friday show, there was about an 80% percentage, the way he had broken it down, that UVA was going to win the game against Virginia Tech, and he was right. They were the better team on paper going in, and they certainly were the better team when they walked off the field. I was really, really surprised and disappointed how bad Virginia Tech was. And I think it's pretty easy to say for the first time, and it surprised me too, other than the conflicts on the field, the extracurricular activities, the Hokies didn't have any fight whatsoever against Virginia. And that was not the way that I know Philip Montgomery wanted to go out as the interim head coach. But Virginia, hey, give them their flowers, man. Give them their flowers. Congratulations to them. Tony Elliott had a make-or-break year, and they went out and made it. And now they're playing for an ACC championship against Duke. And nobody had that on their bingo card to start 2025 in the ACC. But that's what we're looking at. And now all this speculation that if Duke upsets Virginia, that because of the rule in place about a higher ranked group of five or whatever it might be, I quit following it because it's so convoluted. If your conference champion, if your power league wins, you should go. It shouldn't matter. Winning the games are supposed to matter. College football will promote itself, in particular ESPN. We got to get into these complete. When you think they can't lower themselves to a new level, the whole Lane Kiffin 48-hour coverage is so embarrassing. I felt bad for Marty. I did. They stuck Marty with that story all weekend. And he would have an update, nothing to update. It was bad, really bad. Good morning, Rodney. How are you? Matthew, yes. 59 points for JMU trying to make a resounding statement. Have they done enough as a Group 5 squad to make the playoff? I don't know, but they're really good, and they have a really good head coach who's about to make a Power 4 school. Very fortunate that he's still out there after the dust had settled. But Bob Chesney was not really ever connected to any of the SEC jobs. And they all fell pretty much the way we had talked about. And we'll go over all that with Todd Grantham, who was following it and having all these great updates about how it was going to go. Kentucky fired Mark Stoops last night. And now they have an opening. Crazy. Very crazy. We'll see. Yeah. The thing about the optimism for Tech fan is legit because you look at the ACC this year and just look at it as a whole. You can definitely, in year one of the James Franklin era, you can definitely find yourself in contention. I mean, why not? Is anybody going to look at this league and go, boy, you got to climb through a lot of really strong programs? No. UVA did it this year. You know? So, yeah, it can happen. It can happen pretty quickly. But he's going to have to find his quarterback, and we'll find out if he is honed in on one or two here soon. I expect staff. A lot of you asked, and thanks again for the messages on the professional door text line all weekend. I believe this is the week we find out about the staff. Absolutely. And it's hard to believe we're starting the whole college football calendar is just a joke. The way they have the portal recruiting, and then the madness over the weekend yesterday with everybody jumping ship. Just crazy. But you'll continue to see good recruiting, right? More recruiting news. You'll continue to see that, right? So that'll be happening. But anyway, we'll get into it, and we'll talk about it, and we'll get your reaction to all of it. But it was a bad performance by Tech. I don't think there's anybody who's going to be able to disagree with that. It was UVA played well, and they were in total control of that football game, really from the onset. Kyron Drones in his last game, 4 of 16 for 78 yards. Couple of interceptions. Tech couldn't run the ball. Of course, Hawkins didn't play. the most anemic-looking offense that you could imagine. And, UVA didn't light it up. Once again, their defense controlled things. They didn't throw for 200 yards. They didn't run for 200 yards. Absolutely, Jim. You got to move high school signing back. It's crazy to have this early period. It's so dumb. Paul's on the 4th day of leftovers. Oh, God bless you, Paul. Congratulations, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. By the way, I was asked, if you see, I don't know if you can see on chat, when you see me removing comments, there's always bots when you reach a certain audience level. It's just part of the territory. It's actually flattering because that means you're actually out there in the – so don't worry about it. They'll be removed. They'll be removed. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to miss Kyron Drones. Let's put it that way. And I don't mean that on the kid as a person. I think for the most part, he tried to play really hard this year, but boy, oh boy, he just turned out to be not a very good quarterback. And it's okay to say that. I don't know why for such a long time people were very, it's because of this. It's because of the offensive line. It's because of the receivers. No, it's because of the guy under center. He's not very good. He's a good runner. He's a big guy, but he's not a good college football quarterback. Let's just say it the way it is. And you're not, again, piling on the kid in any way, shape, or form. But I think if you want to look at the one reason Brent Pry failed, he couldn't get the quarterback position nailed down in his 3 years and 3 games. And I know it's going to seem like revisionist history, but you wonder what he saw in the 2 games that he started at Baylor that made him feel like this is the guy that's going to come in here and run, at that time, Tyler Bowen's offense, because it never showed up. He had a few good games, got off to a decent start. And the one thing I will also criticize, other than Phil Montgomery not having them ready to play the rivalry game with a chance to spoil their season, why in the world did you not, even if it may not even be a thing like you really think Pop Watson is going to be a breakthrough guy, but when your quarterback is struggling as bad as Drones did the last month, why not put Pop Watson in the game more? And I know a lot of you were asking me that question. I don't know the answer, but I agree with you. I agree with you. But any event, Tech fan, you'll continue to get good news on recruiting here until this whole thing shuts down for a while. And I think the coaching staff will be announced here this week. But, yeah, the calendar is just screwed up. And with the way everything is going on with the coaches, the fiasco of Lane Kiffin, and that's what it was. I hate that Marty Smith became just a meme on Twitter over the weekend. That whole thing from ESPN's perspective, I mean, Marty's just doing his job, but he couldn't have enjoyed that. But that whole thing was just so embarrassing, so bad, the way they covered that whole story. And it's because, of course, that network's in bed with the SEC. They practically are one another's main business partner. But let me ask you this. How many of you, just like me, did you find yourself just going, I don't care. Who cares? Now, in SEC territory, I get it. But how many of you were like me going, I don't care about any of this? We knew he was going to go. All this that he didn't have a decision. I mean, all the reporting, all the false reporting just to try to beat other people to it. No, there's no doubt in my mind, Chris. Drones stayed out there because he's making the 1.5, I guess. You don't want to have your investment. But at that point, you should be over a little bit, right? And then they forced him on the field when he wasn't 4 of 16 in your last game. Remember how we previewed last week on Friday? We're talking about maybe he's going to go out with a bang, maybe he could play extremely well and give Tech a chance. Yeah. Look, I have nothing against prayer. It's been successful in my life, but him continuing to say that was the main reason. Come on. But how many? I'm just asking you, did you care about it? Other than it being force fed, you couldn't turn on the TV without seeing a report from Marty. Did you care about where Lane Kiffin went, whether it was Ole Miss to LSU? I didn't. Not in any way, shape, or form did I care. I mean, I cared when I saw another offensive lineman commit to James Franklin. I said, oh, cool, that's 3 now. He's got 3 linemen. Zach says Lane Kiffin's a joke. Tried to still coach in the playoffs. And how about Nick Saban? He could not have been more objectively wrong about this whole thing, about letting him coach the team in the playoffs, especially after the way all this went down. And then he had all these alleged threats. Well, if you don't let me coach, I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to take this guy. And then he ended up having like 4 guys go with him. Saban quickly became an ESPN guy, and that's disappointing. Chris says my TV is on a No Divas TV. Right, exactly, Matthew. Did he have the best run of any Mississippi coach? He did. 3 10-win seasons. They're going to be in the playoff this year. He did. But college football is a mess. It's a mess. ESPN doesn't care because it got ratings, People are watching, so they're going to eat it all up. But we as fans recognize it for what it is, man. It's an absolute mess. Absolute mess. Just a mess. And I don't know if it'll ever get back to where we can just watch it. Morning, Daniel. And just enjoy it anymore. But yesterday they were changing addresses. The stage was kind of set Saturday night, and then everybody was changing on Sunday. Yeah, 0 of 9 on 3rd down until late in the 4th, 6 straight 3 and out. Whew. It was a bad performance by Tech. And that was the first one that you had to look at and go, they just didn't show anything like they had shown in even the losses. No fight against your rival. None. 0. Disappointing. Knicks fan, wait, drones sucked. I never have seen that. I know, right? Who knew? More on Kiffin. He acts like he won 2 national championships. He didn't. LSU threw $96 million at a guy. Yeah, I didn't care. I just never cared about any of it. I'd always flip the channel. Just sit there. Yeah, and I do have a supportive argument, Tebow, about why Virginia did what they did. They had to. Like, everybody's pointing to they built this year's team primarily out of the portal, which is extremely true. You're very accurate. But he had to. He was given the same ultimatum as Brent Pry as they were both going into their 4th year, since they were both hired at the same time. It was the first time he had that kind of money to go out and actually spend on the portal. Much like Tech, UVA was very slow to the party. But he had to do something because he was making decisions every day in his roster makeup based on if I'm going to be here in 2026. You won't see them going forward. You won't see them, I don't think, dabble that much into the portal because they're not going to have to. And if they win the ACC championship and go to the playoff, then all of a sudden they're going to be much more attractive to in-state high school recruits going forward, especially after that coach who brought them back in his final year is going to get a contract extension, Tony Elliott. So, to be honest, yes, everybody's correct in saying, hey, look at the makeup of their roster. But it was a desperate times, desperate measures, right, for desperate times. And that's what I think he probably overcompensated a little bit. Hey, but look at the results. I mean, they're one game away from playing in the national playoff. Is imperfect as all that is, college football, they're one game away from playing in the national playoff. And every Tech fan would take that, regardless of how the roster looks. And we'll see how they have that bounce in recruiting if that happens for them. We'll see. We'll see. There's lots of numbers out there. I don't know what they ended up with. See, Chris, here's the problem with the whole NIL system. Nobody has to report anything. We don't know. We don't know. We just don't know. But you see, the other thing, too, you got to give Tony Elliott credit for, they evaluated players who he knew would be there for 1 year correctly. Right? Brent Pry did not evaluate correctly enough. And that wasn't good. That wasn't good. Yeah, I did. I saw the Mississippi fans, David. That was funny. Different vibe down there. Big Al, what's up? Good morning. Drone's first pass attempt summed up the entire game. Yeah. That was the most disappointing thing. Even if UVA had, beaten them, at least fight, make them earn it. I don't know. It just had a weird vibe to that game. And that's not the way I thought they would go out. I thought they'd go out fighting, and I thought you'd see a traditional rivalry come in. They dominated that series. But, hey, that UVA defense is good. They're pretty good. They make plays. And Tech did not. Bob Chaney to Ole Miss. I continue to see the Bob Chaney UCLA connection. I don't understand it. A lot of people say it's close to being done. Rick Neuheisel, who gets on the CBS network, who was a UCLA quarterback, comes on and he's part of the whole thing. And all he does is say, when he comes out here, when we get him and he hits the ground run, he's acting like it's done. I haven't seen that. We'll talk to Todd Grantham about that job. And thanks to Todd. Todd's been great, man. I've been getting a lot of inside stuff. Between he and my Big Ten guy, they nailed them all. They nailed every spot. I think John Summerall is being right now, Florida fans are kind of crapping all over John Summerall. That's a great hire. He's going to do good things. That's the Tulane coach who took the Florida job. Good luck to him. They sent people to protest. Did you see that at Florida? They sent people to protest as he drove up to the complex after he landed and signed his contract. Or maybe it was when he landed to sign his contract. I don't understand. He'll do a good job. He will do a good job. See who Kentucky hires. I think the offensive coordinator at Oregon is the front runner there. Because I think he's from Kentucky. May have graduated from Lexington. I'm not sure. Yeah, you're right. Tebow, the offense, it was just dreadful. It was terrible. Terrible football to watch. All the 3 and outs, no fight, no emotion in a rivalry game. None. I'm not sure. We're going to talk, Chris, we're going to talk to Grantham about that, about Penn State. I think he has a different take on what they're doing. In other words, none of the guys that fell off the board over the weekend were on their radar. None of them. They're looking at a different pool, some different names, and I'll wait and let Todd talk about some of those people. But I know it looks like on the surface that Penn State's being left in the dust, but I don't believe it is. I believe that's a place that, oh, by the way, those kids won their game at Rutgers on Saturday. They're going to a bowl. How about that? That team got a lot better when James Franklin left. But Penn State, I think, anticipated this was going to be the weekend of the SEC madness, and they weren't in on any of those guys. Not one of them. So they're just going to kind of, now here comes the next, take a deep breath, all the pressure's off, and they can focus in on it. We'll see who they end up hiring long term. We'll talk to Todd about that. And no, I don't think it'll be Brian Daboll. I do not think it'll be Brian Daboll. There's some names that if it happens, if one of them happen, you'll go, wow. So we'll see. I'll let Todd break those names for you coming up. But yeah, they'll get somebody that'll be better than you think, in my opinion. I do. But kudos to that team, man. There's a handful of players came out and talked about how coach wasn't bought in after James Franklin left, and they rallied. There was not that cave-in. There was not that whole, oh my goodness, what are we going to do now without him? They got better and better and better. Remember, other than the miracle drive against Indiana, they had that game won against Indiana. So is that a red flag potentially for Tech fan? I don't know if you want to. Tech fan won't look at it as a red flag because it's all good with James Franklin. I'm just saying, I think it does say something that team got a hell of a lot better when he left. I mean, how do you ignore that? It was much like the bump that Philip Montgomery gave Virginia Tech when he came on for Brent Pry. Right? We saw a different type of team. They immediately go out and win against NC State. They didn't win games after that, but boy, you felt proud of them every week. They were a different team. They took to the coaching change. Penn State clearly took to the coaching change. Please, Penn State, go get Nick Sirianni. Yeah, Tebow, I guess I jinxed it on Black Friday. Sorry, man. Yeah, the Eagles look bad. Eagles seem like a mess. And doesn't it seem like that Jalen Hurts, and we're jumping all the way around because it is called Reaction Monday here on the program for a reason. We're reacting to all of it. Doesn't it look like Jalen Hurts is completely separated? Tebow, you're an Eagles guy, right? And I know Ryan Pry, the attorney, is too. Doesn't it seem like Hurts just is disassociated with the huddle? Is that just me? I know you watch him more closely than I do. Because I did watch more of that game than I did some of the afternoon college football games. They just looked, I don't know. He's not leading that team this year. It looks like they're just completely, they put him in a, kind of feels like Russell Wilson. Remember what happened with Russell Wilson? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but Eagles fan, let me know what you think. But watching that game, it just kind of felt like he was ugly, very ugly. I mean, you can say nobody puts baby in a corner, but everybody was putting Jalen in a corner. Yeah, I don't know. That whole Hurts, that's an amazing fall, huh? TLB, kudos to James Franklin's closet door locksmith. Will we ever find out what happened? Hey, Opal, good morning. You're never ignorant, dear. Yeah, that happened. How long has that been? 2 or 3 years? Yeah, it hasn't been long, Opal. Yeah, we're both teams get the football in overtime. Yep. Yeah, how about the Panthers? By the way, beloved Broncos last night in overtime beat the Red Commanders, the Commander Skins, 27-26. That's 9 in a row. Broncos keep winning close games. And on the surface, that makes me feel bad. In a lot of, well, not bad. It makes me feel, okay, it's going to run out soon as a Broncos lifer. See back here? Yes, but you know what? The Rams heavily favored on the road yesterday at Carolina, as Wayne just referenced. Panthers are pulling a rabbit out of the hat. Amazing how they are turning it around. It is. It is. Glad for them. Hang on, be back. Kitty time. All right. But yeah, Carolina, congratulations to them. It's a big win. Morris says Carolina wants to attend a game in Charlottesville sometime. Great experience. Thanks to Hokey Bob and Karen. Heard game day or cemetery tailgating stories. Yeah, Nick Benito saved the game. On the blatant pick play that the Redskins ran there going for 2. They run more pick plays than anybody I've seen. They got away with them, too. Broncos had to win that game twice after they stopped them on 4th down at the 40-something, and they called pass interference, which I think was probably the right call. And then they had to get the stop. Yeah, Prometheus, it's not a great product. Officiating is still bad. There were a few against the Broncos last night. You just sit there and you're just – sometimes you wonder what they see. And you know it's bad whenever you see them. Don't you hate this, whether you're watching a college game or a pro game? When you see them all huddle and you can tell they have no clue what just happened. And they're having these long conversations. You know they're going to get the call wrong or give us just this horrible explanation as to why they threw a certain flag. No confidence in them whatsoever. But we do have confidence in family fencing. See how I did there? Jason, good morning. Family Fencing, sponsor of our studio here in Reiner, 540-200-8294. Check them out at familyfencingnrv.com. They're going to work through the wintertime. It's really the best time to have your yard, estimated. You have the work done. So when you get spring fever and you're out there wanting to plant and excavate, whatever you want to do, your fencing is ready. Give them a call. And give Mark Hunley a call. Now that we're in December, I'm going to go over and get my back pop, and we're going to record it. McClellan Chiropractic right off of Peppers Ferry Road. Give them a call. Go buy your next car at Harvey's GM in Radford. Check them out. Go see Brad Harvey. He's the best. I'm going to change my header here. I don't like my header. There we go. And thanks, as always, to Brandon at Top Shelf Apparel. By the way, if you want T-shirts, I have them. Sold a few more this weekend. $20 in person. If shipped, $30. Send me a direct message or hit me up on the Professional Door text line. Professional Door Incorporated. Residential and commercial garage doors. Family-owned and operated, 38 years in business, right across from New River Community College. Thanks to Travis Williams and the crew. The bad refs, the long commercials. Yeah, just like in any ACC game, college football games, the long commercials too. Bad. It's just bad. National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner, BDST here on YouTube. Plus, they've been my banking partner for 35 years. So, Ryan Pry, we have to have a new BDST fan question of the week. 701 West Main Street in Radford, Trust and Estate Planning. We'll try to have that unveiled for tomorrow. Hit me up on the text line. Your suggestions have been really good, by the way. Those of you in BDST land. It's 24 degrees this morning, so give Charles Lee a call. Little River Heating and Air. You can trust them, and they're the best in the biz. 540-553-2971. I can tell you that because I've utilized them. Love it when you get people to come work on your house and they don't try to rip you off. They don't. They're the best. We are presented each and every day by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Going to get with Tim Miller this week, and we're going to start running out weekly some of the folks making all the great decisions up there with Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. So excited they're bringing the racetrack back, and they've got so many other things that they've got going on. You're going to start seeing this, by the way, as a national thing, the announcements, when all these other organizations who are tied into Pulaski County are starting to say, hey, this is where we're going, and people are going to be excited. And all the other surrounding communities are all working together to be part of it. It's great. NRV Super Bowl served the community for 25 years. Give them a call. Reserve your lanes. 540-382-5525. Lawson's Mobile Home Supply has been the place to go for manufactured home parts. Give James Lawson a call, 540-381-8011. Now, I think that's everybody. Hit me up here in the chat or on the text line. But yeah, not much more to talk about in the Tech game, I don't think. It's just it was bad. And we'll see how UVA does against Duke in the rematch. Paul says it probably right. Regardless, I'm happy the year is over. Not as excited about either of Virginia Tech's basketball teams like I was. Yeah. The VCU game, they spent all that money. Speaking of spending a lot of money on NIL, Mike Young did that. And it's not unlike Tony Elliott finally having it at UVA. He finally got it in his program. And maybe Toby Lawal's the best player on that team, or at least the heart and soul of that team, because they lost both games without him. But VCU made a statement, they take that game very personally. They've considered themselves right up there as the best program in the state for a long time. Why not? They went to a Final Four. So, yeah, Tech men's basketball's got some correcting to do. Wayne asked, why does Lane go to LSU? Does it fill his ego? I think Ole Miss seemed better for him afar. The money can't be much different. Yeah, and it wouldn't have been if he'd have stayed. They would have done. Yeah, how much money do you need? I know people are going to laugh. Well, all we can get. So much money. Ego, he's jumped around his entire career. Remember, he only spent 1 year at Tennessee. The quote came out over the weekend from a lot of the pundits, too. People were – that Al Davis, the legendary owner of the Raiders, who, he had hired Lane Kiffin, couldn't stand him, realized immediately, made a huge mistake, and said Lane Kiffin is a professional liar. He's going to go his whole life and lie, and everyone's going to give him the benefit of the doubt because that's a talent that he has. He fooled me for a while. That's Al Davis. God rest his soul. As a Broncos fan, I can't say I liked Al Davis, but, boy, I have a hell of a lot of respect for him. He was there at the beginning of the AFL, and when he took over, bought the Raiders, and created arguably the best color combination, the most celebrated color combination from that era moving forward is silver and black, right? Let's just give him his props. Paul says, if I were a recruiter, I would pull the old, you want to go play for a guy you can't count on. Paul, you're right. And here's a point. But you know what? The mindset of the players has changed completely. They don't care anymore. They don't care anymore. Players are not going to a school because of the school. And I'm not saying this is across the board. All right, we'll talk to Coach Elmassian about this. They're not doing this for, I can't wait to be in Blacksburg. Man, the drill field really got me going. I just use Tech as the example because that's going to be the recruiting everybody's following. James Franklin, okay, cool. What am I getting paid? Lots of rumors about what they paid that running back they got to flip. Upwards of $2 million. The linemen that they've brought in. I mean, but that's what everybody's doing. And these players now are learning business. You can take business and economics in school, but now it's real life for them. They don't care. And again, I'm not going to say it's every kid because you're going to have in-state kids who care, but they're not looking at the coach as much. They want to be comfortable with the coach. But Penn State guys who are committed to Franklin, and this is true anywhere, just like Ole Miss guys who were coming in committed to Lane Kiffin are no longer getting that money. So they're likely going to follow him. If James Franklin was able to work out NIL for those freshmen that he had committed to Penn State, he's going to work it out for them when they come to Blacksburg. So therefore, they're going to be looking for a new job. And let's just say it the way it is, it's now a job. So everybody talks about the Franklin bump. Yes, it's true. But they also know how much more money Virginia Tech has committed to the NIL and how much they can get paid. It goes hand in hand. He was already a really good recruiter, and now he's got that ammunition of all that money. And for me, you're right. LSU's, and I think that was part of it. Is the Ole Miss model for Lane Kiffin? I told you we're jumping around. It's Reaction Monday. Is the Ole Miss model for Lane Kiffin sustainable over time to be SEC contenders? And I think the answer is clearly no. Hey, Doug. Good morning, Doug. I think the answer is clearly no. LSU, the answer is clearly yes. And I think, he's talked about it more so the last couple of years, how many of his starters were not from the state of Mississippi. And I think he understands that's not necessarily a hotbed, and they don't have the kind of ends to Florida and Texas like LSU does. He's going to load up with unbelievably talented players. There's not going to be any limit to the money they have to spend. There's probably somewhat of a limit at Ole Miss. He did a great job there, and they salvaged his career. He did. He was able to rebuild every part of it. Look at it this way. What he was able to do, and I know Tech fan would take it, if James Franklin is successful. If James Franklin is successful, and he's there 6 years, Tech fan won't care. But now James Franklin has to rebuild his reputation just like Lane Kiffin had to. And you're correct, Prometheus. Ole Miss, I just looked it up. I wasn't sure. Ole Miss has not had a Heisman Trophy winner ever. Ever. Question of the week. How long do the Kiffin love boat strikes an iceberg? That's a good question. Yeah, the biggest thing you can criticize Kiffin for is he left his team. And the audacity that he thought he was going to be able to coach the team is crazy to me. Especially when there was allegedly all these threats going on behind the scenes. Right? Craziness. Just madness. This is home, Rick. Yeah. I'll still never understand why they ran out the home graphic. I think you need to change that now. If you're going to change all these other things, I think it's time to get rid of the welcome home. When they put up the graphic of him and it said welcome home, I'm thinking he's never been here before. Correct. All this happening because the lack of leadership. There's none. There's zero. There's no accountability either. It's all about collecting checks, man. Have not looked into it yet, David. I know I probably wait till this recruiting dead period comes up before I reach out to Travis. I mean, I'm going to try like hell, but I think his appearances are probably going to be dictated a little bit. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, they got to ditch the home thing. It's not. Yeah. that's been overdone for a long time now, especially when the guy's never been there before. Yeah, I know it's a Virginia Tech thing, but they need to change that Virginia Tech thing. They need to come up with something else. Time to move on in your marketing. How is tarmac pronounced in the Cajun dialect? That's a good question. Oh, the high school kid who was, the 3-star quarterback, whatever he is. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he's going to come to Tech. He's going to announce for Tech, right? Yeah. I mean, Tech was not – the way you can discern this is there's no drama there, in my opinion. He didn't have Tech as a finalist. Franklin goes to Tech, and now Tech, it comes down to 2 schools. Where do you think he's going? All right? Yeah, especially during the portal era. There is no home. The only home for these kids is who's going to pay them the most money. Let's stop being delusional that it's any different for the new regime coming to Blacksburg as it is anywhere else. Lane is going to LSU because the academics for his players are better. Boy, that's right. It was all an academically based decision. Ryan Silverfeld, the Memphis coach, goes to Arkansas. John Sumrall goes to Florida. I think that's a really, really good hire. Alex Golish to Auburn. Just crazy stuff yesterday. It just kept popping like every 20 minutes. Todd would say, hey, this is happening today. Pat Fitzgerald gets hired by Michigan State. But all these were guys, you remember when we had the whole process of Tech search going, they were all guys that were rumored to be on Tech's list. So they were on everybody's list. And this is what we said when Tech finally got it done with Franklin after they waited, was that now they don't have to worry about any of this, which is why he was able to get ahead a little bit and start organizing, recruiting, and finalizing his staff and all that. So then it becomes a situation where, again, you can just sit back and eat your popcorn and have fun. And that's what Tech's doing, and that's what Tech fan is doing. And you should. Yeah, I don't know about the Fitzgerald Michigan State thing. He didn't have a great record toward the end at Northwestern. But I don't ever want to hear any more complaints about these players, by the way, opting out of bowl games ever again. I don't want to hear about any lack of dedication from players. People just need to shut the hell up. You're watching what's happening with coaches. They're all doing it for better financial gain. They're all doing it to make as much money as they can. Coaches, assistants, athletic directors. The players are just now catching up to how everybody else has been acting around collegiate sports for 100 years, right? It's new to us. Still doesn't sit well with us to see these kids come out and making more money than a lot of us will ever make or even think to make in our lifetime. But now the athletes who are out there creating these large TV contracts, the advertising revenue, the merch sales, the ticket sales, all those guys are now becoming part of this business world of college athletics. And because they are young and because they are playing a sport, it bothers the hell out of most of us. But what bothers you more, that or the fact that your coach could very well, because of the buyout or because he doesn't have a buyout, whatever it might be, can just pack up and leave? Doesn't matter how long he signed a contract, right? Yeah, I think Lincoln Riley's a wild card, through all this. That guy is – I could see him doing that, sure. Sure, absolutely. What I'm saying is the athletes are now catching up. Just look at all the guys Tech's going to bring in portal high school. How long are you going to have them? We'll see. We'll see if James Franklin's vision of being able to say, hey, I want to develop high school players, is that going to be reality? Or are guys going to be here a year and decide, oh, hey, wait a minute, I got somebody knocking on my door. The tampering is out of control. The tampering is just insane. There's no morals. There's no period of, oh, I'm not going to contact that kid because he's in conversation. Nobody cares. There's nobody out there that's worried about any of that. It's just about doing what you can to get a kid signed for the next year, high school or portal, because I need to save my job, which is what Tony Elliott did at UVA. And kudos to him. Now, I know Tech fan is trying to smear a little bit that season, but how many of you would have taken Tech in Brent Pry's make it or break it year playing for an ACC championship on Saturday? Right? The how doesn't matter. It's the what that matters. Correct, Finn fan. Lane's done this everywhere. Is LSU going to be his last stop? No. No. But we'll get update on what's going on, what Todd Grantham thinks about Penn State. But I think a lot of people are talking about academics. I know. You just throw it out the window. There's no academics that matter. All guys have to do is get through the first semester. Same thing with college basketball. Exams are coming up before Christmas as long as they have passing grades. I don't know. You don't know that, though, Paul. I know it's what Tech fan hopes. You don't know he's going to go back to 5-7 next year. I mean, I'm just saying, you don't know. Nobody saw them doing what they did this year. But it can happen in 1 year, right? That's what I'm saying for Tech fan. It can happen next year. Sure. Absolutely. It would be. Yeah. It'd be hilarious if Alabama opened next week if DeBoer goes to Penn State. And that has a lot of life to it. People don't understand that's not just a rumor. Lane Kiffin's dream job, is that he said that many times, Alabama. Well, and you're right, Wayne. It's nationally, especially the ACC title game is a complete afterthought. And would Duke be left out if they won? There's been a lot of people that are promoting that on Twitter. A lot of people. Academics only matter to the last few guys that make the roster. That's true, Finn fan. That's right. I just think people are looking at the Penn State, quote, lack of action incorrectly. Tech fans are throwing out all sorts of haymakers at Penn State. Look, they were not in on any of the guys that got hired over the weekend. They knew this kind of wave was going to pass, and I think this is the week that they find their coach. But I think that's been part of the plan all along. Ryan, you're close to that program. What do you think? the attorney, Ryan Pry. But yeah, the ACC is there for the taking. That's the good news. That's the good part of it. So James Franklin can come in next year and have an impact, and I expect that he will. And Tech will be right there, like any of these schools that we saw battling that we didn't understand all year. I mean, is Pitt? Yeah, but those podcasts are run by fans. They're going to always have a doom and gloom, Prometheus. They're all going to say, I mean, who are they saying they should have hired that was realistic? If they're saying that they've missed already, who have they missed on? They haven't offered anybody. I'd be curious to hear their reasoning. Just because they have a coach in mind, when fans take over a podcast like that and they're all like, oh, we suck, like the Ole Miss in LA. I mean, they're all just Florida. Florida has no idea that they fell into maybe the best all-around coach in this cycle. They're sitting around they wanted Lane Kiffin so badly that they don't understand what they got in John Sumrall. David, good morning, David Mabry. You need to get David on this week. The pressing question is, if Ole Miss wins the SEC Big Ten Invitational, will Lane get a ring? And that's what it is, the SEC Big Ten Invitational. Yeah, I think exactly. Penn State's ready now to take their swing. They haven't swung the bat yet. They haven't swung the bat yet. I don't know, Prometheus, are those same podcasts upset they got rid of James Franklin? Because I know I haven't seen that from Penn State fan. Is that true, Hookie Bob? The ACC championship game is on at the same time as Indiana-Ohio State, which might be the most worthless 1-versus-2 game ever. Right? Because you know they're both in the playoff, these conference championship games. Alabama got quite a bit of help, by the way, to beat Auburn the other night. Just saying. Yeah, Lincoln Riley, like I say, some of the guys you don't get might be the best decisions, right? Like Florida's got a guy who knows he's going to be motivated beyond dollars to win. He's going to have to. He's a good football coach. Bud Foster really liked him. So we'll see what happens with Penn State. I think we find out this week going forward. We do. Elmassian a little bit later on. And Todd Grantham. Coach Elmo said that you look at all the things lined up. He asked me the questions. Who would you take, this unit or that unit, for UVA and Tech this year? And every one of them, you came up with UVA. They'd have to play their worst game. And they didn't. They played a good game. Tech arguably played their worst game under Philip Montgomery. But I don't know how. Let me ask you guys and gals. These championship game weekends, do you even care? Now you're going to watch the Duke UVA game because it's ACC and it has a lot of meaning to it. But the Big Ten game doesn't matter. Really, the SEC game doesn't matter. Big 12 games never talked about, right? That game's never talked about. Big Ten games already being looked at. 100% FinFan. 100%. Give me the Army-Navy game. Absolutely. I love watching the Army-Navy game each and every year. Absolutely. But yeah, but how many people really care about those games? Yeah, I'll be pulling for Indiana. I'll be pulling for Signetti. Absolutely. Tebow says, I feel like Miami may get screwed. Miami's definitely a playoff team. And yeah, Notre Dame, hot top. They're in since they beat Stanford. They're going to be in. Yeah. Play-in weekend instead. Yeah, they should. Yeah. Jermaine Ferrell joins us right now. Great program. Good morning, Mr. Sports Director at WFXR. How are you?
Doing all right. How about you?
Hanging in there, man. How was your post-Thanksgiving food hangover? You still have any leftovers, or are they all gone now? That will get into the next week.
Oh, there's always going to be leftovers.
Yeah,
this is the year. I don't
do them all. You finished with them?
Although they do say that on Sundays is kind of the wrap-up day for your Thanksgiving food. I think everybody gets tired. I think you eat it all day Thursday, then Friday, but then Saturday you kind of worn out, and then Sunday I think you're really worn out. So usually it's a 4-day run, and then after that it's all she wrote. I think everybody wraps it up. So.
Well, hey, let's give Tony Elliott some flowers, right? Here they are playing for an ACC championship and a chance in the playoff, and that's, of course, been a Tech-dominated series no matter what kind of teams that are lined up, and they went out. That defense made a huge statement, and I was very surprised that Tech played as badly as they did, but maybe UVA had something to do with that. But what a make-or-break year for Tony Elliott in Charlottesville.
Tremendous year, and I think we talk about the resources and everything that was dedicated to it, and what they did this year, they just dedicated a lot of the resources. They stepped up, put more money into the program, and you see the results. And I think the biggest thing is obviously Virginia plays Duke, but my theory is if you're Virginia, you want to take advantage of this opportunity. Because, it could be a whole different ball game next year. You never know. You might not be able to get in and win it. But I don't think anyone would be shocked if people had Virginia and Duke playing for an ACC championship. You might think that'd be a basketball championship game, but not a football championship game. So I think, and really, just the way they played this year, it's just been impressive. They've been living on the edge a lot of games, but overall they've come in, Rick, and they've done what they said they were going to do. I think Chandler Morris came in and he's told Tony Elliott, hey, let's win an ACC championship.
Yeah.
And see what they did. So very impressive to get the win. Now, obviously, you got to finish it. And that'll be the key. Can they finish this? And if they can finish this, it'd be perfect on their end. But we'll see how it goes. And, I think a lot of people are excited about things up in Charlottesville. Although it was weird during the game, they were hesitant to storm the field. The fans were like, oh, wait a minute, we're supposed to storm the field? And they were kind of hesitant. I was watching it. I was like, wait a minute. You guys do realize you can storm the field. It's okay. Because Blacksburg, they call Lane Stadium North up there in Charlottesville, and every time they won, they stormed the field. They didn't even hesitate. They started storming the field earlier. So I think that's the biggest thing. Can they go down there and win? Now, they beat Duke a couple of weeks ago. And obviously, UVA lost one of their players to a torn ACL on defense. So it's going to be a big ball game. And I think Virginia can win the game. They just have to play the way they have been. But again, it's a championship game. It's the first time. What was interesting is the first time since 2019 that Virginia beat Virginia Tech and they played in the ACC championship game. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what they can do.
Jermaine Ferrell joining us on the program from WFXR. People are asking, and the answer is technically yes, Duke could be left out of this thing if they win, right? Because the 5 highest-ranked conference champions get automatic bids, highest-ranked conference champions. That's the key to that, right? Highest-ranked, not necessarily all conference champions. And several group of 5 teams might play into this. What do you think? Can we foresee the fact if they win the ACC, they would be left out of this thing? The formula says technically they could, but would they have the audacity to do that and tell the ACC, hey, sorry, you're not going to get in?
Well, a couple of years ago, they left out Florida State. So
I know, for losing one game, losing a quarterback. They didn't lose a game.
And they won the ACC. They just didn't have their quarterback, and they left him out. So, I mean,
left him out. Yep.
Anything's possible, Rick. I can tell you right now, And it would be, I mean, the thing is, you look at it, I mean, James Madison, they'll play for the Sun Belt title coming up on Friday. And, in fact, it's funny, Kirk Signetti's crew is playing for the Big Ten title.
Right.
So it's like James Madison has just been cranking them out. I mean, cranking out coaches and all that. And they're talking about Bob Chesney could be a candidate at Penn State, or he could be a candidate at UCLA. So it'll be interesting. I mean, they're talking about John Summerall going from Tulane to Florida.
Yeah, it's good hire. Good hire.
They talked, obviously, Lane Kiffin and LSU and all that, which, I don't know. Have we got anything official on that yet, or did I miss it?
No, he's done. They're all done. They all happened yesterday. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Summerall went to Florida. Alex Golesh went to Auburn. Yeah, the Lane thing finally ended. And I don't know about you, man. I got so sick of it. It's just I didn't care about any of it. It was just there. And they held Marty Smith hostage the whole weekend, following him around. It was awful.
I tell you, when you get him on the air next time, you should ask him about all that, because I know that.
I will.
I know it was kind of like he was down there. He was like waiting on the white smoke. It seemed like.
And he couldn't get any info from anybody. He just always come on. At one point, he read a text that he sent to Lane Kiffin. Got no response, guys. I mean,
like radio silence, as they say. But yeah, it was. It's to a point right now. I mean, gosh. I mean, and here's it. I can't speak on anyone's situation, but I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, it was to a point. You kind of knew he was going to leave Ole Miss. I mean, yes. I don't think it was a big surprise. I mean, once he really didn't commit to the situation in Oxford, you kind of figured, he's going to Baton Rouge.
Right.
And now Ole Miss is looking for a coach. And like I said, it's the pressure, Rick, in the SEC. We talked about this before. If I'm a coach, like James Franklin probably did it as well as anyone could. I mean, it wasn't like, James Franklin had to do this, that, everything else. I mean, he made a decision, and he's going to Virginia Tech. And the thing is, his path of getting to a championship in the league and maybe nationally is easier through the ACC. SEC, all those coaches, like there's going to be an expectation to win. And I mean, like I said, there's like most of the schools in the SEC, the expectation is to win, not only the conference, but win a national championship. You can't do it every year. So we'll see how that goes. But, I thought the Lane Kiffin thing was a little bit overdone for my liking. I mean,
terrible.
They make a decision. I mean, it's kind of like rather than just say, hey, I'll let you know what's going on. No, make a decision. If you go, I mean, and now, we got the transfer portal and we got all this, recruiting stuff coming up. I mean, so it's crazy time. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Well, let's look at some high school stuff because we still have 4 squads hanging around, man. Grayson County,
we got
huge
5.
win. 5? Well, 4. Well, yeah.
We got 5.
Who's the 5th one? I missed one. Who would I miss? LCA, Grayson, Gretna. Grayson, Glenver, LCA, and Jefferson Forest. Who did I leave out?
You only said 4.
Huh?
So you got Jefferson Forest in Class 4.
Yeah. Who did I miss?
Class 3, you got Magna Vista as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Magna Vista.
As LCA, and then Class 2, Glenver.
Yep.
And then you have Class 1 with Grayson County. But what's interesting, if you look at Class 2, Glenver taking on Union, they're heading down. In fact, all of our local teams, I believe, will be on the road. I still don't have a location yet. There was talk of Grayson County and Ryco playing a Virginia UVA Wise, but we're trying to get that lined up. But all the other teams will be on the road. I mean, we start off at the top with Jefferson Forest playing our Verona team, and I saw them play in week 1 against William Fleming.
Yeah, I remember that.
They are potent. I mean, it might be the toughest team JF will play all year. I mean, basically, it's they're a ball club very similar to GW Danville, but the only difference is they got players that are going D1. I think their receiver's a D1 player. I mean, they got like one, I think he's going to UVA. They got a bunch of D1 talent that are going to major D1 schools. So that'd be a pretty good test in the Richmond area to play JF. Then in Class 3, if you remember, they re-bracketed because we would have in the old system, we would have had. Now in Class 4, what they did is they reseeded. So they took the points and they reseeded all the regional champions. That's what they did. The other classifications is kind of predetermined. So, obviously, in Class 3, we would have had Magna Vista and Liberty Christian play, but they actually mixed it up. So you're going to have Magna Vista going to Norfolk to play Lake Taylor, which is going to be a tough ball game down there. I mean, Lake Taylor, they dropped down. You remember a few years ago they played Salem for the Class 4 title, and then they dropped down to 3. But Magna Vista's has been playing with a lot of momentum as of late. Really, the shocking game, I think, JF winning big over GW.
Huge, yeah.
It was 49-7. Didn't really see that type of margin. And then in Class 3, Magna Vista, 65-34 over Lord Botetourt. I think they're the score. And the thing is, Magna Vista, every playoff game, Rick, they've set a playoff record for scoring for the program. I mean, they are just scoring. I mean, they are lighting up the scoreboard, which I feel gives them opportunity against Lake Taylor. And then Liberty Christian, the 2-time defending Class 3 champs, an overtime win over Heritage, which, I think everybody felt Heritage was going to probably win that game. But again, you don't count out the champs. And the thing is, with Liberty Christian, they only had like 10 seniors on their team, and it's mostly a junior team, and that those juniors know what it takes to win a championship. And right now, with Phoebus being knocked out, LCA has the longest winning streak in the playoffs. Keep in mind, LCA, they've won 13 straight playoff games.
Wow.
I mean, think
about
that. And to think about it, if you think about how much extra football. I mean, I know a few years ago when Heritage was making that deep run, and they're almost playing an extra. If you think about it, in the span of 3 seasons, they've pretty much played, Rick, 4 seasons of football. Because remember, to win a state championship, you got to win 5 games. And LCA, they've played 14 games the last 2 years, and this year as well. But still, I mean, think about this. If they make it to a championship game, they would have played 42 games in 3 years.
That's incredible.
That's
incredible.
That is over 4 seasons of football.
In 3 years. Wow.
In 3 years. I mean, and, they get it going. And then in Class 2, here's an interesting tidbit. You got Glenver taking on Union. And the thing is, with Glenver and Union, they're the last 2 undefeated teams in the VHSL. Like, Glenver's undefeated and Union's undefeated. So we're going to be down. We're guaranteed an undefeated team playing for a state championship. And obviously all the stuff that's going on with Union, that's out there in the mix. But Glenver, I tell you one thing, I feel like, they had, Brody Doyot out with an injury for a little bit, but they just got stronger. And again, they took command. And the thing is, they've been to like 6 or 7 straight regional finals. I mean, I think they've gone to 9 regional championship games in the last 12 seasons, and they've won like 3 of them. But they have just been so impressive, when it comes to making deep playoff runs. I mean, you can bank on Glenver at least making it to a regional final.
Yeah,
which has
every
been
year.
Coach Clifford, the program he's run down there. And then we go down to Class 1, Grayson County. I mean, what they put a number on George Wythe, 42-15 at home. And now they play, and they have a rematch with Rye Cove, and Essex was knocked out. So we're going to have a new Class 1 champion. So, I mean, you got an opportunity here. Yes, Rick. I mean, you have an opportunity, but the rematch with Rye Cove, it's going to be a good one again. But Coach Stephen James, Grayson County, once they get into this time of the year, it's just something. The last couple of years that thing has switched, and now, I mean, they are rolling and they're playing so well. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I will tell you this: I know good news in the 2 games, the 2 NFL games. Cowboys beat Kansas City. I know you love it when Kansas City loses.
I didn't have a Cowboys jersey, but I was a big fan of the Stars on Thursday, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Got a Cowboys jersey on. There you go. Got a Cowboys jersey.
Is that a Rodney Pete jersey or a Romo jersey?
It's Tony Romo. Romo. Got Romo. It's my wife's jersey, which is crazy. I've been telling people, how much weight I lost. I've shedded 40 pounds, and this is an extra large, and it's not even snug on me.
There you go. Look at you.
That's what helps me. When the health folks say, "Hey, lose weight, lose weight." So, and I've done it in the proper manner. Not eating all the fast foods. Get away from that. Get away from the junk.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I've lost about 40 pounds. I was over 300 pounds, Rick. And now I'm down to like 260.
Hey, congrats, brother. Yeah,
so
you look great. You look great.
Working out and all that.
Hey, Morris just brought something up, and I was going to ask you about this anyway. He says, Jermaine served 10 years in the Army as a fellow veteran. Please thank Jermaine for his service. So thank you again, Jermaine and Morris. Hey, but I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about this before, how excited do you get about the Army-Navy game? For me, I always take time. If I'm not doing basketball, I watch that game. I don't care what other game is on, I will leave it on Army-Navy. I know it has to be special to you as well.
I tell you, I would love to go up to that game. The problem is it's the same weekend as the state finals in football. So
I know.
I really don't get a chance to watch it because I'm out covering state championship games. So I really don't get the opportunity to see that ball game. And it is, everybody talks about big rivalries, but the thing is, it's a rivalry. But guess what? They all work. They're all still as a team.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter with Army and Navy. I bump into a bunch of Navy guys. My dad served in the Navy, and my brother, Army guy. A lot of, and my nephew, and I've had nieces and all of them that served and all that. But it's a special game. I mean, the pageantry. Oh. And they play up in Baltimore this year. Pageantry, and thank you again, Morris, for the kind words, and we really appreciate that. But yeah, it's a special time to get out there and support. Really, like I said, I mean, you have the midshipmen and you have the cadets, and they all march in, and they're there. The pageantry. If you ever get a chance, I mean, and the only way I probably see myself getting a chance to get to one of those Army Navy games is I pretty much will have to be retired from broadcasting, because every year will always fall on this weekend. And there were been talks of them moving the game to a different time, but it needs to be where it is. I mean, it's a perfect time. And
I agree
with that, but very, very humbling game for a lot of people, and just got to pay honor and respect, because these young men and women, these are our future leaders in the military and future leaders in general. So it's a big time there.
It is, man.
But good stuff. But yeah, the Denver game last night, Denver and Washington. What a game that was! I mean, Washington had a chance. There's just some weird plays at the end of that ball game, but overall, Denver is just rolling. I mean, Denver's 10-2, and everybody's just questioning them. But I'm like this: you're 10-2.
Yeah, I know.
Apologize for being 10-2.
No, you don't. Not in that league. You win 9 in a row in that league. It's like winning 30 in a row in baseball or football or basketball, right? I mean, in the NFL, I mean, that's I know.
Why do we have to apologize for winning?
I know. I'm with you. I don't feel. I know. I see as a fan, you see the own deficiencies of your team more than other people. But yeah, you're right. 10-2 is 10-2. You are what your record says you are.
In the NFL, there's no committee that's going to decide who gets into the playoffs.
Correct.
10, and there you go, 10-2.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like a reboot of, remember in the 10 years ago, the same teams that are leading the division, like New England is winning the division, and Denver. I feel like we've gone back 10 years to the days of Brady and Manning. Now it's Knicks and May. The Colts are in the mix. I mean, it's just crazy.
I know.
And now the AFC North is kind of clunky because you have it's like who wants the division. That's almost like who wants the division, because Pittsburgh and Baltimore both. Although Baltimore seems like they're the better team, but
I know.
You have Derrick Henry and you have Lamar Jackson, and Pittsburgh. I mean, it just seems like for years Pittsburgh, their offense, they really. But they don't have a losing record. They always have. They always.
Mike Tomlin, man. Mike Tomlin.
And there comes a point you got to open up that offense a little bit, get some playmakers. I mean, they've look what George Pickens is doing in Dallas.
I know.
A lot of players leave Pittsburgh and they go somewhere else to have success.
And the offense,
it's like you go to Pittsburgh, it's offensive purgatory. It's like
it is.
You don't have any offense. there you go. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one coming up this weekend, Rick, with the high school football, and of course, we'll have Hardy's Friday Night Blitz again. We'll preview the state semifinals with all those teams, and so it could be interesting. We could have 5 teams play for a state championship. We could
I
have
know.
So it's one of those things. It's gonna be interesting, but yeah, it'll be fun, and we'll be excited, and we'll get the coverage going and all that.
Well, follow it all on WFXR, and I appreciate you, my friend. Congrats to your resurgent Cowboys, and especially for beating the Chiefs. And we'll see how the week goes this week.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know that for your opinion. I mean, I know we should have Mr. Smith on here and all that, but do they get in? I mean, does Kansas City, like, Patrick Mahomes said, hey, we got to win out, which is true.
Yeah, he's right.
Because they're 6-6, and that, I mean, the way the AFC shaping up, I mean, 11 and I mean, and their schedule is tough.
They got the Texans next week. I know. But we'll see.
But no worries in the Rocky Mountains, as they say.
No, not right now. Not right now. All right, brother. Have a great week, man. Stay safe. And
you too. And you take care of you and your fam. And again,
you also
have a wonderful and blessed week. And as they say in your world, right, go out there and make it a good day.
Make it a good day. I will, brother. You too, man. Thanks for everything, Jermaine.
You too.
Good stuff as always from Jermaine Ferrell here on the program. And yeah, kudos to him. And I'm glad you said that, Morris. I don't tell Jermaine enough, to thank him for his service, his 10 years of service. He's awesome. Jermaine's just a great guy too. Great guy. And I'm glad to hear. I didn't realize he'd lost 40 pounds. That's great. TLB says, except for the Dallas jersey, Jermaine is solid money. That's got to be a Washington fan. Or you might be an Eagles fan. That's great. Hey, rivalry's great, man. Disliking your rival is supposed to be. It's okay. Did see a lot more fighting. I don't condone the fighting. I do like to see the animosity. I think sometimes we see all the money being thrown around, especially the college kids. You think some of that's been taken away, but Tech and UVA got into some scuffles, and Michigan, Ohio State had the whole post-game field thing, protect my field. I mean, good. I'm glad. It means something. It means something anyway. Jeez. I'm a whoever beats Dallas fan. I got you. I understand. They're playing better, though. And I'm a huge Dak Prescott guy. More for I think he's a good player, obviously, but he gets a lot of criticism. But the way he's handled his personal life, how honest he was about his mental health and what he's done to help people. A lot of guys don't do that with the money they have in the NFL, and he does. Thanks to Jermaine. The coach, Phil Elmassian, going to join us here in just a little bit. He was all over the UVA Tech game. He knocked it out of the park. Why did I question Coach Elmo? I didn't really question Coach Elmo, but I did think Tech would play better and make that a game in which UVA would have to win it in the fourth quarter. I was completely wrong. I was so disappointed. I think you were too. That was a no-fight game from Tech. It'll add even more momentum to the new era of James Franklin. Let's put it that way. 3-9. 3-9. I know you are, Wayne, and I understand, given our long relationship, being a lifelong Browns fan. He's a forever who beats Denver fan. Not many people beating us right now, though, Wayne. 10-2. But, coming off a bye week, traveling across the country. That's a good win last night. Marcus Mariota played extremely well. That's it, Tebow. You're right. I used to give my mom, God bless her soul, miss her. We used to give her a hard time about that until they start winning some playoff games. And they got a long climb. They got a long climb just to make the playoffs. They do. They are playing better, though. They are. What says you don't want to play Cleveland? Yeah, I'm shuddering if they ever have to play Shadur Sanders. Let's see. You got the Raiders on the road. Got another road game. Raiders, Packers, Jags, Chiefs, and Chargers. Good God. Broncos finished with 4 playoff teams. I forgot that their extra game was 17 is the Packers game. Oof. I don't want that. I don't want that. Got to play them all week by week. Got to win them. Got to win them. The coach, Todd Grantham, at 8 o'clock. We had his take. He was cluing me in about 5 minutes before all these coaching announcements were being released yesterday. Hey, this deal just got done. This deal just got done. Now, go ahead, Coach. I caught you in mid-drink. Phil Elmassian joined us on the program. What's up? Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, giving you your flowers. You were all over. You gave us the 80 percentile why UVA was going to win, and I think you hit every aspect of it. But did it surprise you? UVA's better, and we went over that. But did it surprise you how little Tech had emotionally in that game? That was a bad effort. First bad effort we've seen from Montgomery's team.
Well, that's true. But remember this, Virginia Tech's only been a 2-quarter team. I mean, I have not seen them play a full 4-quarter game in the last 2 years. They're somewhere between a 2 and a 3-quarter game. For 2 quarters, they're probably got a winning record.
Yeah.
And Pry may still have his job if they just stopped it somewhere at the end of 2 quarters, wherever those were, and that's fact. But, it's interesting. After we had that conversation, my wife and I were driving, I know I called you. I said one of the things that Coach Holtz really impacted me at that time as a young coach, when we were at Minnesota, he had taken over he had taken over a team that had won 1 game the year before and given up an average of 40 points a game on defense. Matter of fact, Wisconsin the year before, I don't know, put something like 50 plus on them. They got into the 60-point losses. It was really, and they had every problem you can imagine. Coaches physically fighting coaches on the sidelines and players. And so it was an absolute mess when he took that program over. And we're going to play Wisconsin at Madison. That is a huge rivalry game. I don't care when it's played, for the Paul Bunyan Axe. And, Wisconsin and Minnesota are what I call the sister states. There's a line that separates them, but they're both very similar in a lot of facets. So we're going to Madison and playing them. And the night before, in a staff meeting, he made the comment. He goes, if we play at our worst and they play at our best, could we still win the game? Which the answer was absolutely not. And so the bottom line is we had to play at our absolute very best to have a chance to win this game. And we did. We won 13-6, which was a huge upset because Wisconsin ended up being one of the top teams in the Big Ten at that time. So when I looked at the UVA and the Tech game, and I know the rivalry and I get the rivalry, but as I mentioned, when the ball is kicked off, those records and all that emotion, that's out the window. Now we're playing football. And when you look at Virginia Tech, they would have to play at their absolute very, very best to have a chance. And they did not. They did play at their worst, but the difference is, Rick, they played it for 4 straight quarters. They normally have been at least 2 quarters at their best at just about every game that I can remember watching on TV for the last 2 years or 3 years for that matter. And it was, I've never confused lack of effort with results. I've never confused effort with results. And you can talk about Tech's efforts all you want. Doesn't matter. What are the results? Effort is a given in sports. That's a given. Okay. With it, it's those guaranteed with it efforts, you're going to win a game. But the guarantee is without it, you don't give yourself a chance.
You're not going to win. Right.
Okay. The percentages are really going to diminish. And that was the game when it was all said and done. The efforts, slash talents, as I've mentioned to you before, or slash experience. This Virginia Tech's they're a 3-win team. They're a 3-win team. A team that had a 28-0 deficit at the halftime of Old Dominion, which turns out to be a good football team, but got their coach fired. I'm not saying they got their coach fired, but they got their coach fired.
That's right.
And I say Brent Pryor got himself fired because he was the head of it. He was everything runs downhill, goes right through your assistants. And when you look at Virginia and that statement, when you watch that game, to me, I still go back to the confidence that the administration had in their coaches and their staff. They've not fired anybody and could have, maybe should have, but they didn't.
They didn't. You're right. You're right.
I've said this. I know I'm a broken record, but I'll say it, and I believe it with my heart, that sent a message to the players. And I don't care if they bring in 34 kids. As soon as those kids got on the campus, that message is sent to the players through the players that are still there.
Let me ask you about that, Coach, because a lot of Tech, they had a great year, and I understand why they did it. But a lot of especially Tech fans are saying, "Hey, look at how they made their roster. They're not going to be able to."
Tech's going to make their roster next year. What's they just were a year behind.
They had money to spend this year. Well, I'm just saying he knew it was his make or break year. He had to do what he did because he was going to get fired, just like Brent Pry if they show up 3-9 or 4. Exactly. He was gone. He was out the door.
Exactly. The UVA, here's the deal. I had a buddy of mine named John Palermo, who we coached together at Minnesota, and we ended up coaching in Wisconsin together. Well, he was Lou's right-hand man and Barry's right-hand man. He was Lou at Notre Dame. He was Lou's right-hand man. And I remember talking to John and Coach Alvarez, who was the D coordinator. And the bottom line is, Notre Dame's had some bad years, a la Jerry Faust. They've gone through some, the Davey era. They've gone through some really rough times, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Forgot
Miami,
about those two guys.
Miami put 56 on the last game in Jerry Faust,
Davey.
And so, they always told me, they said, look, when Notre Dame is really good in football? When all the priests and the administration decide they want to be good in football. That's when they decide to become really relevant in the national picture. Okay, now that's years ago. Now with NIL portal, all sanctimonious Notre Dame, they're going to be in the portal and they're going to give NIL money. Okay, all right. Well, so UVA, same thing. If UVA decided, they made a decision. They want to be relevant. When they hired George Welsh, they made a decision they want to be relevant. Now, when they hired Coach, I don't know if they wanted to be relevant, but after the last 3 years, going into this year, they made a decision, we're going to be relevant. So they all had a come to Jesus meeting. President, AD, head coach, board of visitors, not as open as Virginia Tech was, and releasing a press conference, we're going to have the money. You never heard any of this. You never heard of, now we're going to open the portal up. You don't have to go back to the high school transcripts anymore. That's what I had heard. I don't know if I'm accurate on that. I'm just telling you what I heard.
Right.
That when they were doing portal kids, not non-graduates, they went back to the high school transcripts and, trying, can't get in. Sorry. That's what I heard. I may be absolutely wrong. And if I am, I am. But I've heard that from reliable people. I know enough people up there. Okay. And now they said, okay, all right, we're going to have the money. They quietly have the money. They didn't do the press conference thing that Virginia Tech did.
That's a good point. Yeah.
No, they quietly have the money. They got a whole lot more lawyers and doctors, okay, coming out of Charlottesville. They got the money, all right? And then they decided, okay, we're going to do the portal thing. Go get some players. And now, like with George Welsh, they told George, we need players. And George said, I want the NCAA rules. Whatever the NCAA says that will allow a kid to be on a scholarship, I want that at Virginia. But we're not going to compromise. And the graduation rates were still off the charts. 3 out of our 4 captains on the ACC championships were in graduate school, which was a big deal, but 30 years ago.
Sure.
So George Welsh never, and Coach Holtz at Notre Dame, when he brought in Ricky Waters and Tony Rice and all those kids, they all graduated. They all graduated on time. Even if they went to the NFL, they came back and graduated. So my point being is that you look how Virginia, how confidently they played. That was a very confident football team.
Yeah, they were.
And have been. Like I told you, Virginia Tech, they had to go see the Wizard, get the fairy dust, all of a sudden turn a 3-win team into beating a UVA team. Well, that doesn't happen. You don't just all of a sudden because it's the rivalry, we're going to now play.
And they didn't.
No, absolutely not. And so my point being is, if I'm an assistant coach at Virginia, and I know I've got the absolute support, 100% support from the president, the AD, the board of visitors, and my head coach, I know from my experiences with that, I am coaching with a great deal of confidence. I am going to be able to make decisions that I know what's going to be best for this player and this football team with 100% confidence, not the fear of losing my job.
Well, and I think about what you said, too. If you're going to go in the portal, the one position you have to get right is obviously the quarterback. And there's no question Tony Elliott did that with Chandler Morris. I mean, you can't watch him. Right. You can't watch him play and not realize how well they did to get that guy in there this year, whereas Tech never could do that.
He coached with his daddy at Virginia, at Clemson.
Right.
He knew the family. He knew the kid. And he had 18 games to evaluate the kid and his productivity. He had 11 starts at North Texas, and I think he had 6 starts at TCU,
right.
And he had 2 starts at Oklahoma. Well, guess what? I want every Chad Morris's 3rd down and 7 or more throws. And I don't want screens. I don't want all the, the glorified runs that they call passes. Okay. That I can complete. I want that arm has got to create the first down. That arm creates the first down. So I get that evaluation first. I want every 0 blitz against him, pressures, 6, 7, whatever man pressures. I want it on film. I want to evaluate. How does he handle it? I want to get all the adverse situations in 18 games. Tyrone Jones had 2 starts. How are you going to evaluate that?
I know.
How are you going to evaluate
that? I never understood it. And it's not even revisionist history. At the time, we were wondering, okay, what is it about him that really, when he hasn't had any kind of film that you could put together for any length of time, and then he gets here and, he had a few nice moments early, had the Miami game when they should have won that game last year when the referees screwed him over, but still there weren't consistency.
2 ships passing in the night.
Right. Yeah.
And then defensively, too much inconsistency. The bottom line is, Rick, I'll tell you, having been a D coordinator and having coached defense the majority of my life, you're talking a lot of Sunday meetings of evaluations. Okay. I mean, just do the math.
Yeah.
40 years of Sundays, from August to January.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a defensive team. They were out of 10 Virginia Tech possessions on offense. 8 times there were 8 3-and-outs.
That's incredible.
I've never seen that.
I know.
You may get 3, 4, or 5 in a game. No, I hate to use the word never and always. If you use those 2 words in a marriage, you're looking for a divorce.
There's no doubt. No doubt.
Okay? You never do this. You always do this. Not good. When those conversations start coming up in anything you're doing in your life, it's not a good sign.
Not a good sign. Right.
Okay. And, you just, I've never seen that. I've never seen 8 3-and-outs. I wrote this down and it blew my mind. The 8, okay, let's do 8 3-and-outs. They got 3 plays. Okay, we got 24 plays. They only gained 23 yards in 24 plays. Okay, and here's the killer. Each of those drives, they only took a minute off the clock. The average, 1 minute. Your defense, and then you have 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions.
No,
defensively,
right.
You can have the greatest defense in the world. I don't care who you are. You're really straining your defense. Your defense has no chance because anytime you give anybody opportunities and snaps, you're going to score. Virginia had 83 snaps on offense. Those days are over because of the running clock. Remember when they used to stop the clocks on 1st and 10? They changed that rule. You're not seeing the 80 snaps anymore as an average. The average snaps are like NFL. They're 60, 65. You start getting into the 75, 80 snap, you're giving up points. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're playing, ODU or Alabama. If your offense has 75 or 80 snaps, you got points on the board. And you look, and then the 3rd down disaster. Remember, we talked about the strength and weaknesses of each team. Well, Virginia's strengths became their strengths, and Virginia Tech's weaknesses was still weaknesses. That Virginia Tech, to win that game, Virginia Tech had to rush the ball 40 plus times. Well, they got 31 rushing attempts. Well, guess what Virginia had? 46.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Virginia Tech had to win the 3rd down battle. That 3rd down battle was an absolute disaster. You talk about at their worst. They were offensively, they only converted 2 out of 14 3rd downs. 2 out
and
of
they'd
14.
run the ball so well. Leading up to that game, they'd really been running the ball extremely well.
That's another thing.
That's the thing that's disappointing.
People can sit there and, how good is Virginia? Or we didn't play as well. Well, guess what? Miami has the best rush defense in the conference, and you still ran the ball on them. And you couldn't do that against Virginia. I was concerned. I was thinking, hey, worst comes to worst, UVA, they're going to take Tyrone Jones and going to run him to death.
I thought they would too. Yeah.
Or an explosive. But guess what? As that game, remember I told you, once you got 10 points, 14 points ahead, who's going to stop Tyrone Jones? Virginia Tech is.
Yeah. Because they feel like they have to throw. Yeah.
Now we gotta get back in this game. We it was just, and then offensively, Virginia's 8 of 16 on 3rd down. That's 50%. Those are those 2 3rd down conversions for both offenses are on the ridiculous side. 8 of 14 for UVA offense and 8 of 16 and 2 of 14 for Virginia Tech. They're the extremes. It's just a big formula for a butt kicking. Everything that Virginia did and everything that Virginia Tech didn't do was the perfect storm for an absolute dominant game. That score could have been worse.
How did you look at all the drama? Because you've been to a lot of places, and it was just kind of embarrassing, the coverage that all the Lane Kiffin thing got and all this with the era that we're in today and coaches moving and shaking. We knew it was going to be huge with all the openings. There's still a lot of openings out there, quality openings. Kentucky's going to come open as well. How much did it hurt? How much did you just sit back and go, what in the world's going on right now in college football to see this kind of weekend that we had with coaches?
Well, it's really sad. As I mentioned, doing this now is a little bit of a hobby for me, the radio show with Greg and being on your show. And, course, all that 9 years I've spent with Greg, the off season, years ago, you talked about the recruiting, and the signing day was a huge deal. Remember, that was like the biggest day in football was the signing day. And then the spring practices and how they were going to go, and which freshman or redshirt freshman is starting now. And, and then you got into this. Now what you're talking about in the offseason, portal, NIL. That's 80% of your conversation from the end of that national championship game to the preseason. That's all. So at least you're thinking, hey, when we get in the season, I'm talking about from a radio perspective. Okay. Hey, good. Greg and I can talk about just the college game. We can talk about the game. You're still talking about now the coaches are worse than the players in the portal. And the administration, they're firing coaches left and right. So, it all starts from the top down. You can blame the coaches all you want. They're getting fired too. They're not voluntarily leaving the job.
That's right.
Okay. So they don't. Do they have to fire them? Some of them no, but they did. You gonna fire Mark Stoops? Here's my question: who are you gonna get?
I know at Kentucky.
Kentucky. Now you know what happened to Kentucky, Indiana. Frank Signetti has caused more firings this year than the NIL. On the
Kurt Signetti. Yeah.
Kurt, excuse me. Frank was his daddy. I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah, Frank was his dad.
Yeah. No, Kurt Signetti. The Indiana success has really caused
that's a great point.
More people to get fired.
Great point.
Outside of the NIL and the portal and the money people, and the empowerment of the money people are off the charts.
It's all over.
It's ridiculous now. So, no, college football is, and then the worst part is, I know I texted you on this. I hate watching any ESPN broadcast.
I know.
I hate it. I like watching game day because I enjoy listening to Coach Saban and it's a lot of entertainment. But when you get to the game, even when I watch an ESPN baseball game, Rick, they can't separate Sports Center from the game.
No.
It's all of a sudden they'll broadcast the game for an inning and two in baseball or the first quarter in football. The next 3 quarters, they're going to find something that's going to turn it into Sports Center commentary
to promote the next thing. That's not even worried about the event. They don't cover the event.
Game. Yeah. Just give me the game.
It's bad.
Come on.
It's really bad.
Hey, I'll update myself. Where's Chris Schenkel? Where's Keith Jackson?
Love Chris Schenkel.
Think about that. Where's Brett Musburger?
I know. I know.
And
I'm muted. I just mute the TV. Most of the times I do.
I do mute the TV.
I just mute it. I don't want to hear. I just can't listen to it.
Before we go off, I wanted to show you this. This was our goal sheets from Coach Saban at LSU that, during the week with the players, and these are the goals, and they never changed. And so let me just show this to you. You see this goal sheet right here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me see if
I like that. Look at that. What you got?
All right. Defensive goals. Did we win the game? UVA, yes. 0.7, yes. Okay. Runs, long run, yes.
That's cool.
They got that. So all these things, passes, turnovers, big plays, red area, third down, they want them all.
And do you take that list with you when you're watching a game? You just have that list. You go, okay, all right. Here we go.
Usually after the game's up. Well, that never changes before. These are your goals because all those things have an effect of an outcome of a game, and that was. And Todd will remember this because he probably did it for Nick too. Then you had to fill out this 3-page sheet of things we did well, things we did poorly, critical errors in the game, penalties in the game. What in the game plan would we change if anything? What about personnel? Did we make the right decisions in personnel in the game? And all that stuff had to get filled out. Nothing emotional. This is the game of football. Okay. And like I said, you can talk about 19 out of 20 wins and all that, Virginia Tech, and it's Lane Stadium North. Great. When you kick that ball off, when you get the third down, are you winning that battle or are you not? Who's out executing who? Who's out playing who? who's got the better plan, but who's got the better players. Because a great plan without players is not a good plan.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I can have a bad plan with really good players and have a chance.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Coach, listen, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate you, and we'll see. I'm sure we'll talk before then, but heck, we might, depending on how things develop with the playoff and all that, we might have to throw you on again later this week.
Let me know. I'm here. I'll be like your golden retriever. I'll be around. Just
okay.
Like I tell Greg, just good to be wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Tell Greg I said hello, by the way.
I'll do it, my friend. Take care.
All right, brother. Good job. Coach Elmassian joined us on the program. Good stuff, as always, from Coach Elma. I love that. How about that? Did you see that? That was awesome, man. His little, we'll call it a scout sheet, whatever it might be, but he's watching the game and he's just checking off like he did when he was coaching, right? That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to get that kind of insight from him. That was really, really good. Really, really good. Speaking of insight, I want to thank all of our sponsors, Family Fencing Studios here in Reiner. Thanks to Family Fencing, a terrific company. Cold weather will not hold them down. Give them a call, 540-200-8294. It's one of the best times to install your new fence, as a matter of fact. Your yard's taking a break anyway. Let them come and get you all set for the spring. Mark Hunley McClellan Chiropractic over in Christiansburg, right off of Peppers Ferry Road. The best in the business. A lot of people I know have said, hey, I've given him a call, got in there, and I feel a lot better. Thank you for that. We're presented each and every day by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. And the tip of the iceberg was the announcement of the racetrack coming back. And here in December, we're going to start having those folks on regularly, and you're going to get more excited. Thank you to those folks for their support, presenting sponsor of the program. Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg. Go see Charles Lee. The black and blue van out there, they're going to be busy. A lot of heating needs this time of year, especially when you wake up and it's 24 degrees. Yay, winter's coming. BDST Fan Question of the Week presented by the attorney Ryan Price, 701 West Main Street in Radford. He specializes in trust and estate planning. We'll have your question tomorrow. If you have any ideas, text me on the Professional Door Incorporated text line or hit me up, DM me. National Bank member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner of this program for the last 35 years. I've used them as my exclusive banking partner. Professional Door Incorporated, residential commercial garage doors, family-owned and operated, 38 years in business. Go see Travis Williams. They now have a full fleet of workers because of you. Thanks for answering the call. Ready, Set, Fund with Bob Chris, ReadySetFund.com. If you have a team at your high school that needs help, they helped Floyd County softball raise $4,000 in about 5 days. They have text messages they send out. Email Bob and let him know. Will you? BobChrist11@gmail.com. He is the brother of the legendary Blacksburg football coach, Dave Christ. Great dude. Great dude. Thanks to the NRV Super Bowl for their sponsorship of this program. Give them a call, 382-5525. Lawson's Mobile Home Supply. They've been around since 1997, located at 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. Give James a call, 540-381-8011. And Brandon, Top Shelf Apparel in Dublin, who made our T-shirts. If you want a T-shirt for $20, if I can get them to you locally, $30 if you need them shipped. Just text me or DM me. We got rid of a few more of those this weekend. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, joining us now on the program. There he is, the coach, Todd Grantham. Todd, I've been giving you your flowers because all day, on Saturday and Sunday, you kept giving me the info. Okay, watch out for this hire. And then sure enough, I would see it come across 5 minutes later, man. You were giving me all the insight.
Yeah, it was kind of a busy time this weekend, and it's going to be a little bit busier moving through this full week and everything. So crazy time. Some people are going to be excited. Some people aren't going to be as excited because the thing that people don't realize is, like, for example, when a guy takes a job, well, he's not taking everybody with him. And some of those guys are going to end up, having to look for other opportunities too. So it's part of the business, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens, moving forward.
Is one of the low-key best hires all going from Tulane to Florida? I mean, that seems like they're not happy, right? People were protesting, and I'm thinking, you know what? You got a really good football coach, and that's a guy who understands how he's got to get off to a good start. I think he's going to work as hard as anybody in this whole cycle to make sure that he shows you he deserved this opportunity.
Yeah, I've gotten to know him. First of all, he was an assistant at Kentucky when I was at Georgia. So being that he was in the SEC for, I think, 5 years, I got to know him that way. And then he chose to go to Troy to become a head coach to start his, career path, which is what it is right now. And then obviously my daughter worked for him at Troy in the football office, and my daughter loved him in the recruiting aspect of it. And then when he went to Tulane, I was with the Saints, so we had a relationship there. So I would go watch practice in the spring, because what's the coach going to do, right? I mean, go watch practice and everything. So being around him, he's a very energetic guy. I liked his staff. I thought they had good energy. I thought they were organized at practice. What's funny is the Florida fans, which I was there. And there is a little bit of an entitlement with that fan base from the standpoint of this isn't a good hire. Well, they said the same thing about their basketball coach when they first hired him.
True.
If I recall, it wasn't like Urban Meyer came from an elite program when he took the job over back when he became successful. So I think the best thing that those people can do is just basically get out of the way, to be honest with you, ignore the noise and let him do his job. They've structurally changed some things there since I was there. I think they got a little bit better setup. They got much nicer facilities now that, they just hired a GM yesterday, David Caldwell, who David and I worked together at Indianapolis. He'll be a good sounding board for John as far as, the thing that happens is, and this happened when I went to Oklahoma State, this is not a knock on college coaches, but the balance of how much am I going to pay this guy? I mean, that's like an important thing. So in other words, and that's where a lot of these schools are going to get in trouble whenever there's going to eventually become a salary cap. Okay. Yeah. Where you can't, for example, to give you an example, when I was at Oklahoma State, I knew that they had taken a player at Colorado for roughly $800,000 to $1 million. Okay. And he was a 2-down player. He was a nose. He was a good player, but I mean, you always look at how many snaps is the guy going to give you during a game. Okay. So I know that they had spent that on a player. So we had a player come in that we were recruiting against them, and our budget wasn't quite like that. So we were in the $250,000, $300,000 range for this player. And looking at our resource and our numbers, I'm like, okay, this guy's a 2-down player. This is his value. Okay. Well, Colorado bumped the kid to $450,000, $475,000. So therefore, that meant they had $1.2 million in the same position that they could only play 2 downs. So my point is that's where I think that the advantage of getting a GM with colleges now is something that people should look at, because yeah, you're going to pay a guy, but what's his value? In other words, okay, is he a 3-down player, meaning he's going to play first and second down, and then on 3rd down he can rush the passer? What kind of special teams player is he? I mean, so all of those things factor in, because when I first went there, basically they had it slotted like, well, we project this guy to be a starter, so we're going to pay him $300,000. I'm like, no, that ain't the way this works. It's got to be budgeted out relative to, 1, your competition, and 2, your vision for the player. So I think with Coach Summerall going to Florida, being able to hire a guy like Caldwell, who's been a general manager in the National Football League, understands salary cap, understands budget, is going to give him a good sounding board. And the other thing is those 2 guys can work together. Meaning, like, when you hire somebody like that, you have to have a relationship. And both of those guys got personality that they can work together. They're going to be able to state their opinions. So I think he'll be a good sounding board for John moving forward, with that program, to be able to, make sure that you're spending your money, because you're spending money on players now, and be able to spend money on players and make sure you're getting value for what you're spending. So I think John's a really good coach. I think he'll do a really good job. I think it's a matter of just ignoring the noise and be honest with you, it won't matter until you lose a game next September, and then once that happens, they'll be back on you again. So
sure.
Just roll with it. And
Todd Grantham joining us on the program. The coach. Let me ask you this, because a lot of people are asking you in chat. What's your take on what you know about UVA? Of course, they manhandled Tech. They get a lot of shade because of what they did in the portal, but it was a make or break year, right? Tony Elliott had to do something because he was going to be let go, just like Brent Pry. He had to do it in year 4. Is this something that's sustainable there? Did they just hit on 1 year because all of a sudden they had money? What do you see when you see UVA, first of all, with what they did to build their roster, and then when you watch them play? I know you were watching the Tech game on Saturday night. Yeah, well, I think that number one, they've done a really good job. They've quietly built their team through the portal. They haven't publicized it maybe as much as other people, but they've been able to spend money on players. So I think when you look at their team, they're a little bit like Vanderbilt, and what I'm saying, what I mean is like they're a solid defensive team. They're really good. Thing that separates them is the ability of the quarterback. I mean, the games that I've watched them, when their quarterback's healthy, he takes them from being a solid team to a team that really can compete with anybody on any given day relative to the competition. So I think it just goes to show their success this year is really how important the quarterback position is, and it just makes teams around. It just makes the players around you better. Your defense is better, meaning if you can call it a game defensively with the lead, I mean, you know certain kind of plays are going to happen. Meaning if you're up by 7 to 10 points, well, they just can't keep hammering you and running the ball. Eventually, they got to start picking their shots and throwing it, and that gives you an opportunity to make plays too. So I think the biggest thing that they've done is they've gotten, and this is true for a lot of teams, is they have good core players. Okay, they're solid, but then at the quarterback position, they've elevated themselves, and that guy has really made everyone else around him better. And I think they've done a good job. So I hope it ends up being that the winner of that ACC game gets in the playoffs, because that's the way it was designed. We don't need to go on the tiebreaker system the ACC has, because your show's only 30 minutes. You could talk about that for half a day. Sure, but I really don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I just know that whatever they're doing, they need to evaluate, because I don't really think they have the two best teams in the conference playing each other. So they need to kind of look at that. But from a UVA perspective, I think they've done a good job of getting core players, and then they've elevated their play with good coaching and the quarterback, and that guy's doing a good job to make the players around him better. And that was Tony Elliott's strength when he was down at Clemson, right? As a recruiter of quarterbacks, right? That's what you hear Dabo talk about all the time. Well, like, for example, that's why when you look at all the hires, the offensive guys and guys that can develop quarterbacks, if you just look at the history over the last 3 years, guys that are, quote, quarterback whisperers or quarterback developers get the head jobs. So what they end up doing is because a lot of coaches want to be head coaches. So they give the head coaching job to the quarterback whisper guy, and then they will go out and hire a more veteran defensive guy to kind of handle the defense. I mean, you just look in the National Football League. I mean, Minnesota, when they hired their head coach, he was a quarterback developer. Miami Dolphins, that guy was a quarterback developer. Like Kentucky, for example. So Kentucky's going to hire a coach this year. I never want to say always or 100%, but I would highly bet you that guy is going to be an offensive guy that can develop quarterbacks, because that's what they need. Because if you watch the game on Saturday against Louisville, their defense has always been good, but they really struggled to move the ball and have an offense ready for the fans. Well, the AD's paycheck comes from the fan base and the people internally, so that's the problem he wants to fix. So I would bet you pretty strongly that the next person that they hire now, that because Coach Summerall actually went to school there,
And if the timing of this had been out, I would say he's the guy that would be going there because he played there, played O-line. And but I think with the timing of it now and where it's at, I would say they're going to end up hiring a quarterback coach or offensive guru per se, just because, that position is really the most important position in football. I mean, it is what it is. So.
What did you think as we watch? You and I were talking this whole Lane Kiffin scenario and where he is now. That everyone looks at this guy as being. I don't know. It was all ESPN production because ESPN's going to ESPN, but the whole thing, man, just got drawn out, and it's been the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a long time. The coverage of this.
Yeah, whole thing. I'll be honest. I had to hit the mute button on Marty from the ESPN perspective and get it to another game. I mean, because. Obviously, that's part of the issue with college football in general is it's made for TV, it's made for revenue with ESPN and those kind of things. And everybody's going to have an opinion of Lane. At the end of the day, he's a really good coach. He kind of resurrected his career when he went with Nick Saban, though. If you really look at it, that's when I think he learned. Yeah. I think he really learned defense. He learned systematically a structure. And those kind of things that allowed him to go to FIU and win. And then that pole vaulted into Ole Miss and having a great career there. But people really shouldn't blame Lane on this whole thing. When you look at it, the whole college football system is really not structured soundly, meaning the calendar is so screwed up for college football. I mean, if you had these kind of rules in the National Football League, you'd have the same thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be the exact same thing because everybody's going to want to get that guy. I mean, the hot guy, and he's an offensive guy, and obviously LSU struggled offensively over the years or over this year, and they'd want to get that guy. So, to kind of correct situations like the LSU thing, the calendar needs to change. Meaning, if you really think about it, everybody talks about culture. Everybody talks about, hey, getting the right guys in your program. Well, basically, a lot of these guys are getting hired today, and they're going to end up signing guys on Wednesday. So that tells you that that's not real important, meaning it's not as important as it used to be because now you have the addition of the portal.
Right.
So there really needs to be some kind of structure like the NFL where you really cannot take a job until after your season is done, okay? And you couldn't interview. So that would curtail a little bit of that. So that way the fans of Ole Miss that have donated money or been fans for years, or even the players, and really it gets back to the players, I mean, they would be able to finish this season going to the playoffs, hosting a playoff game with their coach. But because of the way the calendar is, Lane had to make a decision. And look, his decision was based upon, and he's really right. And I tried to say it the last couple of weeks on your show. If you live in the portal year in and year out, you're going to end up like Florida State or Colorado at some point. Okay. Well, at LSU, you're the only major school in that state. So kids grow up with their parents, their grandparents, and they purple and gold. And so therefore it's internal. So you're going to have a much better recruiting base. So the advantage to that is that, okay, one, I can get a guy in my program early in his career at a cheaper number, meaning everybody's getting paid now, but a high school guy, generally speaking, isn't going to cost as much as a veteran guy. Just like in the National Football League, when you get guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round of free agents, they don't cost as much as guys that are in their second contract. Okay. So I'm going to be able to get a guy in my program, and I can evaluate this guy from a standpoint of, hey, what's his core? Like, what's his makeup? What's his work ethic? What's his attitude? What's his ability? What's my vision for this guy? And then even without him playing, I can choose to increase his salary. I can choose to make sure that he stays on our team because I know this guy has the kind of makeup that I want in my program. But let's say the guy doesn't have the ability or is a selfish guy, or for whatever reason you don't want him, well, you can let that guy go to the portal. So being at LSU, you're going to end up having more players like that in your program, which is allow you to make a better educated decision each year on the guys you want to keep in your program moving forward to allow you to win a national championship. So I totally get, because I recruited at Mississippi State for a year, and look, we had a top 10 defense. And the thing I'll say about the state of Mississippi from a recruiting standpoint is you get big people. I mean, if you look at the National Football League and the defensive linemen that come from the state of Mississippi, you get big people there. The one thing you don't get there is the skill guys.
Right.
So you have to be able to offset that. So I think it was an educated decision on his standpoint. I think the whole calendar is really screwed up. I understand it from even Ole Miss's perspective of not wanting to be there because, Oxford's a small town. The AD's got to live there, and he's going to hear it from his boosters about, we want an Ole Miss guy coaching our football team. So
that's
when
right.
He wasn't going, they chose to go another direction. And they had already had that plan out because you just don't hire Pete Golding 30 minutes after the whole decision's made. You already had that decision made, just like Lane already had his decision made 8 weeks ago. Right. I mean, what'll be funny on that? I will tell the guys on this and you is I do think that it'll be interesting to watch Ed Orgeron in this whole thing because Ed loves the state of Louisiana and LSU football, and I would not be surprised if Ed didn't go back as like the D-line coach / assistant head coach, for him because those two guys work together at Southern Cal.
That's right.
And everything. And Ed's a really good recruiter. Everybody loves him in the state. So that'll be something for people to watch to kind of see what happens over the next week if he ends up being a part of his staff, which I kind of think he will.
Well, and I know Kiffin went around and talked about how of all of his starters, he didn't have that many from Mississippi. He realized this has been a nice little boost, but it wasn't going to be sustainable there like it can be at LSU, right?
Yeah, that's the whole thing is the portal is not a sustainable deal. Now, what it is it needs to be a supplement for your roster. It needs to be allow you to go get the elite player, to go get a quarterback, because if you look at the National Football League, the one position that the lowest success rate of first round picks in the National Football League is quarterbacks. I mean, it's like between 25 and 30%. And why do guys take quarterbacks? Well, they take them at that point because that's their value. And most of the time, teams that are picking in the top 5 are a poor team anyway.
That's right.
So there's so many other things around you that you need to develop. Well, so that's why, going in the portal for a quarterback makes sense because it is a veteran guy and it does enhance the other guys on your team. But you're not going to be able to go in the portal every year and get 40 to 50 guys and hit on those guys. You're going to have misses and you're going to have some situations. And yeah, look, everybody talks about culture and all this. If you're winning, things are right. It's when you lose or you have a hard time, how do people handle that? So I think that it needs to be a supplement for your program, and you still got to get the guys from high school and develop them.
What is your best guess? Probably an unfair question, but speaking about high school recruiting, how much money now is earmarked from the NIL for high school players? I think a lot of times fans forget about that and they think most of it's the old school, and some of it is the old school recruiting, but those guys have their hand out as well, especially those big 4 and 5 star guys. What kind of budgets do you think go to high school kids?
It kind of depends upon the position. Like I know for a fact that an SEC school, they pay close to $1 million for a left tackle. Okay. So you're going to have that. You're going to have guys in the $150,000 to $300,000 range, but it really depends upon each school. For example, like Auburn, for example, is probably only going to sign 4 guys in this recruiting class based upon their numbers and what they think they need in the portal. Well, North Carolina is going to sign 40 guys in this portal. So, you're going to have to pay all of those guys something, I would say if you're ballparking it anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 would be like a average salary for a guy that maybe you're projecting to be, a special teams guy, compete for a role, things like that. I think those kind of guys. But then when you start talking about, quote, the 4-star, 5-star guys, the guys that think can play right now, those guys are going to basically get paid damn near as much as guys in the portal, you know what I'm saying, relative to their position. So it's really player by player in that regard. So I think it's a matter of, that's why to me, and I've always said this, is like back in the day, you used to have coaches that had to look at players in your area and be able to get those to the right guys. And this is where I think Nick did the best job of anybody I've been around. I've been around him twice. Is the amount of people that worked in our recruiting department at Alabama. It's like you have eyes on players. You know what I'm saying? So you have basically someone that handles the whole thing and they oversee it. Then you have someone that is an expert on defense, and with defense he may handle, say, the corners, and on offense he may handle the receivers. He'll say the skill guys. Well, he might see a receiver that, this guy's got length, this guy can run. He really can't catch, though. In high school, the high school coach is going to put those kind of guys in a position to catch the ball and make plays for him because his job's on the line to win in high school. But at the end of the day, that guy's really not a Division I type receiver, but his skill set allows him to play corner. So I think that's why it's important to have someone that handles the skill guys, receivers, DBs. Then you have someone that handles the linemen, O-line, D-line. And those guys are kind of, quote, the positional evaluators, for you. And then that kind of goes through the chain of command. So that way the position coach and the coordinator, you only end up looking at the top guys at each position to evaluate which guys you need to target. And the issue nowadays is everything's gotten bumped up, meaning you can't just say, all right, so for example, this Wednesday, they're going to sign this year's recruiting class. Okay, well, those guys actually visited last summer. They're the schools of choice, which means you had to know about them in the winter of last year. So everything gets bumped up, and because of everything being bumped up, I personally think it's more important to spend a little bit more money on your recruiting department because, if you miss on a player, that's a scholarship, that's a spot. So to me, it's worth, spending an extra $150,000, $200,000 in your recruiting department to make sure that you get the right guys in front of the coaches to look at.
And finally, something too, where James Franklin has an advantage is, when you leave a school or you're fired, whatever deals you made with incoming recruits is off the table, right? I mean, that's no longer going to be honored. So when you see guys flipping, yeah, they're flipping for the coach, but they're also flipping for that deal, right? Regardless of what job you're looking at across the country.
Yeah, I mean, basically what happens is you now there's two things that's happened with that, which is kind of interesting. Number one, there are a few schools out there that would give a kid a signing bonus, and basically they would shut down recruiting. Okay, so there where they get it now, kid could easily balk on you, take the money, and flip. Which a lot of guys like Kirby, for example, and some other guys that I know really don't go that route. They're like, hey, we'll sign you and you'll get your money when you get here. Okay, so when you look at it from that perspective, I mean, guys are really just trying to look for guys that fit their core and guys that can be what they feel like give them the best chance to win relative to their position, and then use the portal as a supplement.
What's going to happen at Penn State? You get obviously there's a lot more interest now with what happened with the Virginia Tech hire. Do you see that? I think people think they're panicking and people keep saying they've missed, but I don't sense that. I don't think they were in on any of the people who got new jobs over the weekend.
Yeah, well, I think they already have a plan. I think that I'm just saying, because if you look at the dynamics, and I don't know anything other than, just kind of reading the tea leaves for example, a lot of guys got extensions, which meant they were out of the picture. Okay. So therefore, there are certain guys that are still playing that have not gotten extensions. So I would be, if you're trying to be an investigative type guy, I would just kind of say, all right, who's still playing in the championship deal that haven't said that they're staying or gotten an extension? Because Penn State has a plan. I mean, they're not just sitting there thinking, what are we doing? I mean, they have a targeted list of guys, and they're waiting. So I would just, if you look at it, is it somebody at Bama? Obviously the JMU coach is still playing. So, I mean, guys like that are still playing. So therefore, I would anticipate, like Penn State, for example, being able to make a decision probably after this weekend and going that route. So I think that's what's happening with that and everything. So we'll end up seeing, but it'll be interesting because they've been very quiet, and when they're quiet, that means they're not talking. So therefore, if they're not talking, there's no leaks. So if there's no leaks, that means they kind of have their mind made up on the direction they're going, and they're just waiting for the right time to execute that. So I have to wait and see. And to go back on your Franklin thing, I really didn't. I need to. Yeah. So James, you're correct on what you're talking about with Franklin and the recruits at Penn State. Like that contract, basically, once he left, guys from their contract. And the reason they did that is they wanted the new coach to be able to get guys that fit their system and not be stuck financially with a player that fit Franklin's system. Now, good players should fit any system, and I've always told guys, get me the best players, and it's defense about getting the best 11 guys on the field, and we'll figure it out, particularly if they're D linemen and that kind of thing. But to go back on your point there, yeah, basically those guys at Penn State were released from their deal, so therefore they didn't have a contract anymore at Penn State. So, they had to solidify themselves something, and I would not be surprised if, what happens is you have a budget for every position. So therefore, if Penn State got a guy at a certain number and somebody lost on them, well, let's say that team that lost on another guy, and now all of a sudden the guy that was committed to Penn State's now available. Well, they may bump his salary a little bit to get him because it's a little bit clearer what their picture looks like because they've lost a couple guys at that position and there's a need for it. So they can actually increase his salary now because there's a little bit better understanding of where they are financially with who's available. So I think some of that went on too, particularly with front guys and guys that kind of make your team, meaning D linemen, edge guys, quarterbacks, those kind of things.
Well, I keep saying one more, and then I promise this is the last one.
Where's the
best for Bob Chesney? Because the UCLA stuff's not going away, and I don't understand how that fits him in any way, shape, or form. What do you think ends up happening with him? Because he just put up 59 and they're going to be in the Sun Belt title game, and they got a shot to make the playoff. I mean, his profile is going to go up and up here if they just keep winning.
Yes, I don't really know Bob Chesney. I do know his offensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator was at Florida with Dan Mullen and myself. So offensively, they're very similar to what Dan did, at Florida, which is a good system. I think that this is a unique year, and there's so many openings. Like what does he do to enhance his career? Okay, and a little bit of that, like for example, came about with the guy at South Florida, meaning, do I jump on the Arkansas job or am I going to wait? You know what I'm saying? So in other words, if let's say that someone's going to try to lowball you and give you basically roughly the same amount of money, but I'm going to have to go to say Arkansas. Well, if I'm at a school like JMU or UCF and I can go 11-1, then I'm going to be hot this year and next year. Okay. Well, if I go ahead and take that job at a low number and I go 6-6 and fight my tail off, I'm not as hot because everybody wants the guy that's 11-1. So I think the biggest thing for him is to have a vision for where he wants his next step to be. and where he can have the best success, because he's got a little bit of a window there in the standpoint of, he's successful this year. So let's say he did take the UCLA job. Well, then that's it. You got to make that work, because your next step is going to be based upon your success at UCLA. Whereas let's say that isn't the right fit for whatever reasons, and you're patient. Well, with the landscape of college football, and I've said this once they started this whole playoff thing, the landscape of college football is now going to be, are you in the playoffs or not? So it's going to end up being like the National Football League. Like in the NFL, there's 8 openings every year. There's only 32 teams. There's 8 openings every year because somebody has to lose. Well, there's only 12 teams making the playoffs in college football. And if you don't do that, it's deemed as a failure at certain schools. So therefore, they're going to make changes. So, and I know it's hard when they're going to offer him anywhere from $5 to $7 million a year. But, what if I'm patient and then I wait till next year? You become the top guy next year, because all the guys that were up there this year have taken jobs. They're out of it. You know what I mean? Like Golish is gone, Summerall is gone, all them guys gone. It's like the draft, man. Now you become the first round pick.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? So I think that from sometimes patience is the best thing to do relative to what you think you can have success long term. And, that was always Nick's whole deal. Like, Nick was at Michigan State. And one of the reasons I went there was I wanted to coach in the National Football League. And I felt like he would go, but he never felt like the opportunities that were available to him, the Giants and the Colts, he didn't think it was sustainable and he could win there. So he ended up staying at Michigan State and eventually ended up going to LSU first. So I think that's something that he'll have to think about from a career standpoint of what situation gives me the best chance to be successful. And if I don't feel good about it, I know it's hard, but patience is something that allow me to reach that career goal.
Yeah, he can sit tight, accept his little bump that he's naturally going to get from JMU. And like you said, all of a sudden I play myself into a first-round draft pick. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the way to play it and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, all right, brother. Great stuff as always. And I know that if something breaks, I'll get a text at some point today. Hey, keep an eye on this. It'll happen. So I appreciate it.
All right, bud. Take care. See you.
All right, brother. Be good. There you go, Todd Grantham, joining us on the program. That's good, man. You don't get insight like that anywhere. I mean, that guy. I mean, how good is that? That's a great thought. And, boy, I hope selfishly for the Commonwealth, I hope that's what happens with Chesney. Wouldn't that be great if he just decided to have that patience and he just waited? Because there will be jobs next year. But who knows what he wants? We just don't know. That was good. Good stuff. Thanks to everybody. Great stuff as always. Thanks for joining us in chat today, and thank you for supporting the program. Please subscribe to the channel. Like it, share it. It's free. If you're a subscriber, get one person to do it. Thousands our goal. We're getting there. So please, let me know. Subscribe. Let me know you subscribe. Good stuff today. Don't forget, if you want BDST shirts, they're $20. I'll ship them to you for $30, no matter how many it is. Hit me up, DM me, Rick Watson, Big Dog Sports Talk, or hit me up on the Professional Door text line. Thanks to all of our guests today, man. That's good info. Jermaine Ferrell, Coach Elmassian, and Coach Grantham. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you on the Tuesday edition, everybody. Be good. Take care.